Grave Torture from 2024, directed by Joko Anwar. When a suicide bomber kills their parents, siblings Sita and Adil are sent to a strict religious school and are subjected to terrible conditions that will echo through their lives. Adult Sita, Faradina Mufti, and Adil, Riza Rahadian, lead bitter, hollow lives as the scars of their childhood have made Sita obsessive and Adil emotionally withdrawn. It turns out that the suicide bomber passed a cassette to Adil on which he claimed to have recorded grave torture, an Islamic belief that the unrighteous are punished after being buried by two angels, Munkar and Nakir. This belief in tangible evidence of his faith galvanized the man to violence in order to rekindle people's fear of God, Allah. In light of that tragedy, Sita has dedicated her life to debunking the recording and proving to the world that belief in grave torture is simply a way for religion to instill fear into both non-believers and devout. Sita is determined to be buried with the most reprehensible person she can find and film her experience, thereby proving that grave torture does not exist. But will her recklessly immoral actions result in karmic comeuppance, or will her snide smugness see her through the day? I quite enjoyed Anwar's Impetigore, Satan's Slaves, and the sequel Satan's Slaves Communion, so I was excited to watch this new nightmare. Unfortunately, this film strays from the folk-adjacent horror of the previous films and dives just a little too far into the religious for my taste. Anwar had pointedly avoided the religion question in his remake of Satan's Slaves. In the original version, the family was being punished for being lapsed Muslims, and the subject didn't really come up in Communion, so I figured that religion was a subject too hoary for him to address in his films. Evidently, I was wrong, as grave torture just jumps headfirst into a religious debate that, while it doesn't diminish the scares here, seriously undermines its characters. Sita is distinctly unlikable due to her smirking, self-absorbed, hilariously hypocritical, holier-than-thou attitude. Like internet personalities that advocate for or against religion, her rhetoric is distasteful, her methods dubious, and her character suffers despite being the ostensible protagonist. Instead of any type of sympathy, all I personally felt was pity for her, as her life is shown to be nothing more than an excuse to pursue her revenge and wallow in self-pity. Joko Anwar's previous films played with the duality of Indonesia's troubled relationship with religion, Islamic or otherwise. But this film seems far less even-handed. The semantics of Sita's complex psychology become infuriating the longer the film runs, with repeated exchanges of, "I will believe when I see it with my own eyes," "but you don't need to see to believe," making her childish declarations of disbelief akin to teenage atheist naysayers' rants on Reddit. The entire third act of this film plays out like the finale of Twilight, Breaking Wind Part 2, in a move that seems tailor-made to address audience members alienated by the film's pro-religious bent, but ends with a twist that essentially amounts to 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Currently streaming on Netflix, it'll probably be available video on demand eventually. There are some pretty good scares on display here, and you can't deny the atmosphere of the film is brooding, dark, and tense as hell, but the plot leaves much to be desired. The film may well prove more divisive than Anwar's other projects, simply due to the odd structure: lengthy prologue, extended second act, insane third act, truncated denouement. But I'll wager the religious aspects will prove equally problematic for many viewers. It's definitely worth watching, but you may find your blood pressure rising the longer Sita is on screen. I give this film a 2 out of 10.